Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Alena as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. In just 60 minutes, Alena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman.
Hello and welcome to Magical Moments. And I'm your host, Alena Chapman. And as you know, this show is all about that ease and betterment in your life. And now, in everything that's going on, now we've got the busyness of the holidays and we've got all this other stuff happening too. It's enough to boggle the mind, and we need that ease and flow, don't we? Okay, well, I have a magical nugget for you today. And this magical nugget came upon me. Well, I'm not sure how it came upon me, actually. I think I just felt it. I started to play with words. You know, you're in the car, you're driving. You get a little bored. You start to play with things. I started playing with words. And I started feeling the words I was saying. And before I know it, I came upon what's really true, that words have a vibration. Yes, the words we use have a vibration. And if you don't believe me, let's try this, okay? All right, so when you say kindness, even with that K, kindness, I don't know. For me, it has a vibration of love. It has a vibration of just, I always want to spread my hands out when I say kindness. It opens me up. All right? Now, so try that. So try the word kindness. Then try the word hate. And feel the heaviness of that word, hate. My gosh, I feel it immediately go on my shoulders. I feel weight pushing down on my shoulders. It's a depressing weight. It's a heavy weight. Isn't that interesting? And I started to think about this concept of words. And I started thinking about how when we say the word, feel the vibration, then we can act accordingly. For instance, well, we do it. We do it automatically. If we think, I hate this, oh my gosh, then everything comes out of us of hate. And we find ourselves being more aggressive. All right? Well, what if we are already angry, like many of us are right now? And who's to blame them? I get it. You know, we're having to deal with a lot as a nation. But what if we always put words like kindness? I want to have more kindness in my life. I want to be more about kindness in my life. Where did my kindness go? And find yourself all of a sudden acting with more kindness. Isn't that cool? What we think and the vibration of the words we use denotes our actions, denotes our perception of what's going on in the world. So we got to kind of think about this. Now, I'm not going to be the word police. That's not what this is for. What this is for you to become more conscious of what is it that you want. And if you want to live with more happiness, kindness, gratefulness, joy, or just some relief, then maybe we don't want to use the words that push us down into unhappiness, depression, anxiety, hate. Do you see? Maybe we don't want to use things that, or even listen to things that are going to bring us into that world of, oh gosh, I don't know, that world of, I know this is all wrong, la 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 la, and we get all angry and stirred up. Maybe we want to listen to things that start to help us to pick the words to live our life the way we want to live it. Just a little bit of a nugget. This week, take a look at what some of the words you're using and how do you feel when you say them. And be honest. Don't try to prove anything right or wrong. Just be honest. And when you're really honest, you will truly feel. And then you have the power to choose. Isn't that cool? All right. Now, along with this, we have another wonderful guest. And she's very in tune with this magical nugget. Her name is Peggy DeLong. Well, it's Dr. Peggy DeLong. And she shows you how, what she does is she shows people how to cultivate joy, even on a difficult day. Well, we have a few of those. And she has proven ways to have you acquire happiness that take very little time or energy and no money. Ooh, you got to dance with that. And when you're feeling down or lacking in motivation, guess what? You'll all of a sudden know what to do to feel better. Now, Dr. Peggy is a psychologist with 20 years of experience, helping people with depression, anxiety, trauma, grief, and loss. So, Dr. DeLong has provided relevant and timely psychological research that demonstrates the proven effectiveness of each technique to feeling good. You got to love it. So with that, I would like to bring on Dr. Peggy DeLong. Hello, Peggy.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Oh, well, I'm honored to have you. How fabulous. So, all right. Now, have you ever heard that with the words, how the choice of our words and the vibration it gives us?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel it every day. And it brings me back to one of my childhood memories when I asked my mother to help me spell the word hate. I was writing something and I wanted to write, and she would not help me spell it. I don't know how old I was, but that really stuck with me, and to be mindful of the words that I used. So since then, I have avoided that word, and still, I really believe in the power of our words. Just like you said, our words are an extension of our thoughts, and we create our own realities based on what we're thinking and our vibration level.
Exactly.
And it brings me to one of my favorite chapters and one of my favorite books, Be Impeccable with Your Word, by in the book The Four Agreements by Don Miguel.
Yes.
And just he explains so eloquently why our words are powerful and just the importance of being mindful of keeping them positive.
It is. And I don't want people to think, you've got to do it in an authentic way. If you are just really trying hard, it gets to be where you get questioning yourself. I don't want people to do that. And I don't want people to feel like, oh my gosh, I just said that awful word. I can't do that. Don't put that heaviness on yourself. It's so silly. It's just, it's just being more, for me, it's natural. I don't like that if I really tune in to the words I'm using, those words that are just hard and heavy, I choose not to use unless I want to make some kind of really big effect in some way. But I don't feel the need to do it. I don't think I use them very much just naturally because I don't like the way they feel. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. It's not even a conscious effort when it might start out that way, but then just like anything else, it goes stronger and becomes habit, so that it becomes unconscious, and it's just the way that you interact in the world.
It really is. And for some of you, if that vibration of a word, everybody's different, and a vibration of a word may hit you differently. But I think in general, the very extremes, you will feel them. And when you feel them, then you have the choice. I think it's important. I think it does help us. When I think of that, like I said, the kindness, and I say that word, and then, oh my gosh, I just became aware of that this morning. And then when I go out into the day, well, guess what? I'm going to have kindness. I'm going to let that car come in front of me. I am going to be really nice and kind to anybody I meet on my way, the store clerk, the mail person, whoever I'm with. And it changes the whole day because you'll get kindness in return.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that you mentioned that it's not to cause more stress, because there is tremendous value in expressing our pain and our discomfort. And it's never at the expense of ignoring our pain, but it can be one way to help us move forward after we have processed pain and uncomfortable feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to be ourselves. Yeah, I do get it. But if you're playing, if you're at the point when you can, well, in any part of your life, it's always good to be aware. Now, let's talk a little bit, because tell us a little bit about your history. You were a psychologist for 20 years. That's fantastic.
Yes, very exciting. I've always known that I wanted to be in the mental health field. My father was a psychiatrist, and I just kind of fostered my love for all things mental health related. But I knew I didn't want to become a medical doctor after hearing his stories. So I decided to go a different route and become a psychologist. And really it's my passion, teaching people very simple ways of cultivating joy, even on a difficult day. And it really came to light in my own personal experiences during my loss of my fiancé and my father back in 1994.
I'm sorry.
These strategies helped me on my most difficult days. So these are things that aren't to be saved for when life is going great. These things work on our most difficult days. So that's really become my mission, to help people in difficult times. And many people right now is the most difficult time in their lives.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it really is. I hear that we are having problem as a nation with everything that's going on. It's weighing on people. It really hasn't stopped, between the COVID and between, the election and 4 years of yay or nay. And just, it doesn't matter who you were for. It's the pressure of trying to support your side. And oh gosh, it was just crazy. And seeing all the unrest. I mean, it was just everything. The last 4 years, I think the nation has seen a lot. We were in an upheaval in so many ways. And with that, and now we are with COVID, it's been on every front. We have been an upheaval. So people are fed up, I think, and they are tired. I would think that is a good word for people. I mean,
yeah.
So if we're talking to a bunch of tired people, so what are the benefits, even when we are tired, to cultivate joy? Why? Why do I want to do this? Why can't I just sit here and wallow in my tiredness?
Because it doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the people around you, especially when there are simple things that you can do to feel better, simple things that are accessible, low cost, or free, and that can do with very little energy or motivation. So doing some of those things can help feel better in the moment, and then when we do them on a regular basis, they become habits, so that they increase our long-term mental health. And some of them are just simply mindset changes and looking for something positive, even in a really difficult situation. And I believe that gratitude is one of the most wonderful ways to do that, because it is accessible to all. There's always something that we can find in a really difficult situation to be grateful for. And it doesn't make the problem go away, but it helps shift our mood. It helps prevent that negative thoughts and energy from spiraling and going out of control in a negative direction. It can help prevent that from happening, and at the same time help shift that energy and go in a positive direction. And I'd love to give people the example of how I discovered the power of gratitude on the worst day of my life.
Oh, let's do it.
I really was quite an ungrateful teen and an ungrateful young adult when I had so much to be grateful for, but I just wasn't. I was into the comparison thing, and that always gets us in trouble when we compare ourselves to other people. But it took tragedy in my life to discover the power of gratitude, and that was when my fiancé was sick with cancer, And the doctors told us that there was nothing left that they could do for him. And it was during those 42 days, his last days of his life while he was hospitalized, that I sat next to his bed. And after all of the visitors would leave at 8 p.m., and I was allowed to stay, and I would sit there with a cup of hazelnut coffee and write in my journal as he slept. And I had so much gratitude for that cup of hazelnut coffee when there was so much unpredictability. Every day I didn't know if he'd be able to open up his eyes and look at me or speak my name. I didn't know if he was going to die that day. But the one thing that was predictable was that I could get that comfortable, very peaceful cup of hazelnut coffee. And the simple pleasure of that coffee, it brought me so much joy. It reminded me of the times when growing up and sharing a cup of coffee with my mother. I would wrap my hands around the cup and feel the warmth, and that brought me comfort. To this day, the aroma of the hazelnut brings me comfort. My 26-year-old self had no idea why that simple cup of hazelnut coffee brought me so much comfort. Now I understand that what I was doing was practicing gratitude.
Yes.
It was during the most difficult time of my life that I discovered the power of gratitude. And if I can find it in a simple cup of hazelnut coffee to shift my energy when my fiance, is watching him die, then it's my mission to help people find it in the very simplest of things that are going on in our lives. And when we do that, it does shift our energy, and it can change the whole course of the day.
It really, or the whole life. My gratitude, I started the gratitude probably during one of the hardest parts of my life. I had a time when, I don't know what was going on, but it seemed like my family and I had a lot of difficulty. And it was a lot of just weird, awful stuff that was tearing the family. It could tear the family apart. And I remember it was sitting down with a book, and I love to sit out in nature, so if it's warm out, I'm out there. And I sat under a tree and I would do my gratitude every morning. And it was like a ritual. I made it a ritual because I needed something solid to grab onto, and a ritual is a really good thing to have, a good ritual when everything else is in an upheaval. So that going out and sitting with a book and writing my gratitude really helped me to start to see that everything was not dark. And it really helped me to see that, oh my gosh, there's opportunity here. And there's something I can do to change this. Because there is so much good. Why do I have to focus on the bad? Why can't I just build the good? That's what I thought. And all of a sudden, I went on a mission of taking the good from that gratitude and making that our lives. And you know what that did? That actually changed perception for my family and me. A total perception, which then changed life. Now, was a crap. I shouldn't, that's probably a bleepy word, but the stuff that was going on, the awful stuff that was going on, was it still going on? Yeah, and I'd have to deal with it, but I wasn't living it. That's where it changes. I was not swallowed up in it. It's like I had my beautiful life here and that I was building, and yes, I would have to deal with this crisis or this thing, but I was not going to get swallowed up into it anymore. And that is, I think, when people, I know everyone says, oh my God, gratitude again. But I'm telling you, folks, gratitude opens your eyes. That's what it does. It opens your eyes because we can get so freaking blinded by what we think is reality. And I know as a psychologist, Peggy, you understand that. You understand how we can get sold on this story of reality that's not even true. And that's what the cause of anxiety is. That's the cause of depression. Am I right?
Yes. And I love that gratitude, sometimes people think of it as this, fluffy, feel-good, woo-woo thing.
Oh.
As a psychologist, it's so important for me that everything that I talk about be backed by research. And there is so much research on the subject of gratitude that, now with advances in technology, we can see that it changes brain structure. We form new neural pathways in our brains. There's so much neuroplasticity at any age that we can cause and bring about ourselves intentionally by focusing on positive things.
That's amazing.
Forming new neural pathways. And it also releases the neurotransmitter serotonin in our brains, and that's responsible for creating that feel-good sensation feeling when we think about what we're grateful for. And the good news is that just like a muscle, when we do this over time, it strengthens and gets stronger and then becomes a habit, and not even in our awareness that we are thinking more positively. And, the research shows that when we do this on a regular basis, not only does it feel good in the moment, but it makes us have better long-term mental health outcomes, that we it lifts depression and it just makes us feel better.
Okay. I have a question for you. Sure. This is a good question. So all right, now, excuse me, I know that if you have fight or flight, okay, and you're always worried about something, you are releasing the chemicals for fight or flight into your system. So you're building different pathways in your brain. You're building, and you're getting this release of, all these hormones. You're shutting down stuff. And if you practice it enough, you wake up every morning with that feeling, or that's the first feeling you get every day. Your stomach is always tight. I know what the effects of that it builds up in your system. It's like becomes almost an involuntary way of being. Now, if that is the truth, okay, which is what I'm asking you, then when you are practicing gratitude and you are getting that serotonin into your system and you are getting that peace and that happiness, and all of a sudden the words that you use are suddenly filled with good vibration, and you're building new pathways in your brain. Now, will that become an automatic involuntary thing, just like the adrenaline feel?
Yes, absolutely. And it helps because part of our brain called the reticular activating system, that is what helps us filter out all of the information that we're exposed to every day. And so when we focus on positive things and what we're grateful for, it helps us highlight that and pay less attention, or even not even notice the negative things. So it does become habit, and in an unconscious way, so that we're not even aware that we are more positive. It becomes effortless. And that's what I love that the science shows, that it can start out as effort, and then when we do it on a regular basis, then it becomes effortless. And we simply become more positive thinkers. And then because our thoughts are related to our emotions, then we have the benefit of improved mood, more elation, more
everything. You have, because it's in our mood, but it's also in our eyes. It's in our, meaning what we see in the world. All of a sudden, we are seeing we're seeing more. It's just like a person looking at an opportunity. One will say this is, it's just like now, you have two people who lose your job. Okay. Both are let's use the, restaurant industry. Let's use that. So we have two restaurants, two of them, and they're faced with this whole thing that's going on out there. And one restaurant just sees all the down. They see we've got to get the tables separated. We got to do everything's heavy, and I got to do it. Or they're like adrenaline filled, and they're like, okay, we got to do it this way, and we got to do it this way, and then they get tired. Then over here you have the person who says, well, I see the point in this. I'm very lucky I have such a great staff. I'm so blessed that I have a family that loves me and that we're healthy right now. And they see all the good. And I have actually seen this happen, Peggy, that the person who was the grateful and seeing the blessings they still had, because they saw those blessings, then all of a sudden more blessings came in, such as an idea comes in. Okay, we are now going to deliver We're going to do a delivery this way. We're going to set this up. So waiters and waitresses, you are not going to lose your job. We're going to have you drive it to the people. And he developed a whole system where he survived the shutdowns, where the other one was struggling.
Yes.
That's a really perfect.
Before, there's always value, and it's important to process our uncomfortable feelings, and there's so much grief and loss going on.
Right, of course.
The gratitude is one way to move forward and just not get stuck there. We don't want to get stuck there, but it's absolutely worth grieving the loss of how a business has changed. And just
of course.
Example,
if you feel like it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You could stay there, but that's not fun.
Yeah. Or maybe you just don't see it. It's very funny. My business morphed. I really didn't see the very big loss. I did like doing the workshops in my house. But then when we morphed, it was even more fun. So I think it's all where, if you have to grieve, you got to take that time to grieve. But if you aren't feeling that grieving, then don't go there.
Right.
We will be.
But I always like to mention that I believe that if that is there, the grief is there, if these sad,
you got to take it.
Is there, we have to go through it. Stuffing it does us no good. But then after processing that, gratitude is one of the easiest, most feel-good way of moving forward and pivoting. And there's so much pivoting going on right now. I've had to pivot my practice. I had an office in town for 20 years. I had to shut that down. That was probably one of the most difficult days of my life. That was really, really hard.
Yeah, I understand. When we come back, I want to hear more about that. And everyone out there, you are listening to Magical Moments. Let's talk about being vulnerable with our feelings when we come back.
This is Magical Moments with Alena Chapman, helping you find your ease and betterment. Stay tuned for more of this week's featured interview.
Welcome back to Magical Moments, and I'm your host, Alena Chapman, and boy, are we talking about how to get that ease and betterment even now, and the good ways to do it. I've got Dr. Peggy DeLong here, and Peggy, we were just talking about when we had to break. I hate when that happens. And I do. But anyway, the good part of it is that we can get right back into it. And this is important to understand our feelings. I mean, sometimes I have to say we don't even understand why we feel that weirdness sometimes, or not right, or not happy with something. And when we don't feel that, I have my ways of finding out because, I'm older and I've tried many ways to find out. When I was younger, I have to say, if I wasn't feeling good and I didn't know why, I put on a sad movie. This was my tool. I'd put on I was like, in my 20s? I put on a movie that was, I was going to end up just crying or whatever. And then all of a sudden, everything would come out and I would know why I wasn't feeling good. And that's what I did when I was young. But I was smart enough to know that I didn't want to stay in that yucky feeling, but I didn't understand what it was coming from. So how do you suggest we process some of these feelings, the grief that we might be ignoring, and we want to ignore it so badly, we really do. And also the feelings of just things aren't, or the anger, or the disappointment, or even being okay with our apathy sometimes. How do we get vulnerable with our feelings? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Sure. Well, I think there are many different ways to help process those feelings. One is journaling.
I love journaling.
So helpful. Those quiet moments to just put thoughts on paper and just let it flow. I believe that is so therapeutic, and we can journal to help us process loss and grief, and we can also journal to generate positivity. So whatever your intention is, it can be done through simple pen and paper and journaling in those quiet moments.
I have a funny story. Do you want to hear a funny story about journaling?
Sure.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I was new in my business and I was very frustrated because my team wanted me to be they were wonderful people, but they wanted everything very narrow, very locally only. And I didn't feel most of my audience was outside of that local. So I was getting very frustrated, but again, I wasn't putting it together. I knew I wasn't happy. So I sat down to journal and I said, why am I frustrated? And I just started writing and I just let it go. You just let it go. I call it spirit writing because before you know it, you're in the unconscious and you're just writing. And I have a big thing with Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass, do 6 impossible things before breakfast or whatever. And well, all of a sudden, on my pen, out it came. Off with their heads. and then I wrote, hey, you know what? That felt good. That Queen of Hearts really had it, didn't she? Needless to say, I fired the team. But it felt good. I released it. You know what I mean? Journaling is a wonderful way to open up and let it just come out the way it needs to come out. And then from there, your next move, I think.
Yes. Well, the 2 things you mentioned that I think are so helpful. Yes, it does it just flows and helps us process. But then often it does give us ideas for taking action. And that is so often what helps us to feel better, the action afterwards. We have a nice feeling about something, but there's so much power in taking action, intentional action.
You feel like you're back in control of your life.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice.
And another thing I like about journaling is that it doesn't require another person, that you can do it on your own. So in those moments when a friend is not available or at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're having difficulty, it's always accessible, that you can do it at any time. And it's so private that you don't need to worry about being judged. So it's particularly important to not judge yourself about what ends up on the paper.
That's a waste. It is. It's a waste of a good thought.
Just let it flow.
Yeah, just let it out. What's another one than journaling that helps us to?
My favorite that's helping me every day now is connecting with nature. As soon as we get into nature, it's so healing, so therapeutic. And there's so much science behind it, too. There's some great books about the science behind connecting with trees and water and how we're biologically connected to water. So simply listening to water and looking at water, it helps our mental health, it boosts our immune system, helps with our physiology, decreases the stress hormone cortisol. So many wonderful things about being in nature. And when we see beautiful things in nature, due to what scientists refer to as the awe factor, it helps stop that negative thinking, that rumination. So you might go into the woods with a worry, and it just disappears. By seeing beautiful, you don't think about it. Sometimes we can go into nature with a problem or wanting an answer, and then it can help come up with solutions. Other times it is the complete absence of worry that is so healing about nature.
It is. I often talk on the show about my sacred space, which is nature, and a special place. There is one tree that it's filled with trees, and I hike, I walk around there, I hike, I sit, I meditate, but there's one tree, and it's a willow tree. And whenever I need to focus my mind, or I need to just let go of something, or I'm trying to come up with an idea and not coming with it, I sit under that tree. And I swear to God, we got a kinship. I feel immediately I think it's a she. It feels like a she. So I'm going to say it's a she. And I have this she just puts all her branches fall down, and it's like they come around me. It's amazing. And I just feel safe, and I feel loved. Isn't that incredible? I just feel that. And that's what I give back to her. Yeah, and I get my best ideas from there. I always feel nurtured. I just love it. That I can't speak enough about nature. That is when we start understanding that we are of one energy, then it makes total sense that we can go out into nature and feel that total connection. You know?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's so powerful.
It is.
And that's something great to do on the days that you simply can't think, when your brain is so exhausted. And sometimes I talk about mindset strategies, but when we're exhausted, it's difficult to utilize those. Being in nature doesn't take mental energy. It is so relaxing. It just and it doesn't have to be moving. Just like you mentioned, you can sit under a tree, sit on a rock, and listen to a babbling brook.
Oh, that's heaven.
Yes.
That's pure heaven.
Yes.
It just, you breathe.
Yes. Well, and the other neat thing is that the science shows that even on the days when we cannot get out in nature, that pictures and sounds have very similar mental health benefits. So I suggest for people, instead of having your phone on your night table and looking at that first thing in the morning, have a beautiful photograph of your favorite place and have that be the first thing that you look at when you wake up in the morning.
I think that's a wonderful idea. At breakfast, I know that everybody loves, I do my little morning routine, but when I have my cup of tea, when I'm not coming here to do the show because this is early, but when I am at home, I have I have this fascination for French decorating, true French decorating, like if you were in southern France. Mm-hmm. And so I have all these magazines that show that simplicity, elegance. And I'm not suggesting everybody go out there and get a magazine for, French decorating. I am saying that's what brings me incredible joy and peace because of the simplicity of the way they decorate and the elegance and just the openness. And every time I open it up, I just go, I just breathe and it makes my tea. That is a very special time. That's after I do my gratitudes, my meditation. I groovy dance sometimes, and sometimes I do yoga. I just connect my body, and then I'll have that cup of tea and just look at those wonderful pictures. And I think life is good.
Yes. Yeah. And I like to call that exaggerating the good. So it's so simple, the simple act of looking at pictures in a magazine, but you are paying attention, you are highlighting, you are connecting with that. And that elevates the impact that it has on you when you really pay attention and focus and put energy and just express the gratitude for what those photographs are doing for you.
It changes. It changes everything. Mm-hmm. I get up from that and it doesn't matter. The dog can be chasing the deer. My son can be unhappy with something. Oh, my mother's calling for whatever reason, or there's some other crisis happening. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming. It's okay. I'll get it done when I can get it done. It's all, you come about it in a whole different way. And you don't all of a sudden feel that surge of, but you're not in like that room where you're going, it's like the Tao, you have that breath that is activating you, but yet your core is calm. Do you know what I mean? So it's like this excited happiness that you're filled with such goodness, and you don't have to open your arms and say, fill my heart with love, because it's already there. You've done it. You've done it all morning. You've filled it, and you're connected, and you just feel like, okay, I can get up and I can conquer this. Get the dog in the house, talk to the child that it's not really so bad, and let the mother do whatever you need with the mother. And then before you know it, you got it all under control. You can breathe and get on with your day. You know what I mean? You're in a good mood still. It changes stuff. Yeah.
It really does. Yes, it can change the whole course of your day and your life. And then just with regular practice, it becomes effortless. And all practice is just focused attention and repetition. And then with practice, things become habit, and then we do them without even thinking and live more positive, joyful lives.
It is. It's so funny. Happiness is a decision. And if you, do you agree with that?
I do, and only because the people hear me talk about gratitude and happiness a lot, and sometimes just think that I've had it so easy. But I really like to remind people of the difficulty and the tragedies that I've experienced, and even during that, that's when I knew I was onto something, when I could still experience joy after such tremendous loss.
Yeah,
and it was a choice. I of course, I grieved, and in some ways still am grieving, even though it's been 26 years.
Yeah, of course.
But I choose joy every day, and so in such simple ways.
Now,
so it's not.
There's one thing we have to talk about. What about the person who feels, and I know they're out there, I know you're out there, is the person who says, "Oh, but I feel so guilty for doing that."
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's a very common experience to feel, especially after loss, to experience joy.
I don't have a right to feel good. That I just don't have a right. You know what I mean?
Right, or even fear of being judged by others, like
yes,
for having joy,
which is
after
so
loss.
silly.
or judging ourselves. Yes, that's a very common experience. And what helped me was that I knew that my fiance and my father would not want me to be sad.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a tribute to them to live my best life. That's
so nice. Yeah, I think if we start, you're right. You have to take a look at what is real. I mean, why feel guilty about someone passing over? All the pain is gone. Grief is really for our loss, because that soul is like, hey, it's on to greener pastures, and here you're mourning it so bad, but you're mourning what was. And I don't know. I'll tell you, when you finally can get to that point, and you can start to put, grief evolves. It never leaves, it evolves. And I find, like with my dad, it evolves. I feel like I wouldn't want him here with his Lou Gehrig's. It was horrible for him. But I love the precious moments we had through the life, and I'll treasure those always. And it puts him in a good light. But I know he's on to better things. And me knowing he's on to better things, it helps me to feel closer to him, even though he's not here. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not, and sometimes you get a wave. Of course you get a wave. I call them waves, where they just wash over you, and it's like, he's gone. Everybody gets that. But in time, those waves get smaller and smaller. It's an evolution, and you have to let yourself go through it. But it's not sitting in the guilt and the mourning and the want and the, you know what I mean? It has to be the evolution. You have to move forward in it.
Yes, and it takes time. I remember, for me, it took a while to experience joy. And I'll never forget the first time that it came so powerfully and naturally, standing on a street corner in New York City with a belly laugh. I'll never forget it. It was almost a foreign experience after being in such intense grief. I'll never.
It was a release, wasn't it?
It was a relief. It felt so good to have a belly laugh of pure joy with some old friends, and I knew that that's what they wanted for me. To experience joy, and just to find it in the simplest of ways, by connecting with a friend over an old memory and laughing.
Yeah, you really do. Guilt is such a funny thing. I love it. So if someone, all right, so we talked about some tools to get ourselves, if someone's just having a day, maybe they're feeling, well, I think we have enough time. I want to just dap into one other thing. That's big, because it is big. We have a lot of anxiety. Let's just tackle that, Lion. There is a lot of anxiety out there. And there is, to the point where people are just, their hearts are beating too fast. I mean, I'm talking real anxiety where the heart is just, you're waking up and you don't even know, and your heart is beating like way past where it should be. And this, how do people in that kind of condition get themselves back to a place of happiness and joy? How do they get where it can counteract those terrible side effects of anxiety?
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is such a common experience right now. And the reason is due to the perceived threat, the very real threat, the pandemic, and our bodies are taking that on. Our physiological systems, our nervous system, particularly the sympathetic nervous system, is like in overdrive due to the perceived threat and the constant fight or flight state that we're in.
Yeah.
But the good news is that we can counteract that by employing the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is done through simple exercises. Deep breathing is one of the simplest ways that we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system and slow down our heart rate, bring down blood pressure, bring down that stress hormone cortisol, simply through taking deep diaphragmatic breaths, not just into our chest, but deep into the belly, and getting some deep breaths. For people who are very highly anxious and having worry thoughts, then using a guided meditation might be helpful, so that your thoughts don't get caught up in negative thinking if you're trying to focus on just breathing. Some people find that too difficult because their mind wanders.
Yeah.
And then it might be helpful to use a guided meditation. Listening to somebody else's voice can serve as a distraction from your worry thoughts. Or meditation and yoga, anything to induce relaxation is so important now.
It really is. And respecting yourself now. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're going to go into that anxiety. All right. Well, don't just sit there and let it go. Right. Say, hey, wait, everyone, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go take a walk in nature. I'm going to, let's talk about something fun. I'm going to put on music and start dancing. There's this groovy, whatever her name is. I love her stuff. That's so cool. It's easy. And just, you get into it. It's really cool music and you just jive. You can get yourself. You've got to take care of yourself. When you feel yourself getting into that space, it's the only one who can help you is you, not the magic pill, you. And so if you've got to take a level of control and say, wait, this isn't how I want to be. I want to have more joy. What's going to bring me joy right now? Well, I'm going to dance, or I'm going to do my deep breaths and get calmed down. And then maybe I'll do some yoga. Maybe I'm going to play with my breath,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to try what works for you.
Right. Everybody's different, and it changes day to day. Some
it
days
does.
It might be more of a relaxing exercise. Another day it might be more of an active cardio exercise. But it's so important to incorporate that every day into life to help decrease the overall level of anxiety. It helps in the moment, and then when you do it on a regular basis, it does reduce the overall level of anxiety. And then also during moments of heightened anxiety, those activities actually are more powerful when you've already used it and it's a familiar activity.
I really do think, I know that they say it's clinical and everything, but now I'm not a psychologist. I will say that right now. But the people I have observed, learned, friends, and also clients, and anxiety seems to be so much because of our own doing. So much because of our thought process, so much of what we focus on, so much of what we do. It really is. It really is. If we can start it, then we can stop it.
Yes, and it's hard to just shut off a thought. So that's why.
You can't do that.
Yeah, so, it has energy and it tends to spiral. So that's where I think that gratitude is so helpful, because it just shifts that energy and sends it in a more positive direction rather than just trying to stop a thought. That is really hard to do, to stop thinking of it.
No, if you're in a spiral or you're thinking of a thought, it's very hard to stop thinking of a thought. But you can replace it, like with gratitude.
Exactly.
Or dancing. Exactly. Say, you know what? I'll think about it in a minute. I'm going to go dance right now, or I'm going to do my gratitude, or I'm going to take a walk in nature, or I'm going to call my friend. You know, you're not ignoring it. You're just putting it on a shelf for a minute.
Yes. And even for people who are sitting at a desk all day, even just
that's hard.
Up and moving around the house or the office is a helpful way to shift that energy just by getting up and moving.
Yep, and I always say, guys, you can always watch What About Bob? It's one of the funniest movies in the world. Talks about those baby steps. You want to get rid of that mood? I love funny stuff. You have a book. You really do. I always say at night, I'm doing my meditation, I say, and I'm connecting, and I always say, okay, I need to watch something funny tonight before I go to bed. I love my little Brit, what is it called? Brit box. Oh my gosh, some of the funniest stuff. I laugh so hard. Sometimes I get tears. I just love it. So you've got a book coming out called Feeling Good. Or is it out already?
It's out already, yes.
Ooh, tell us a little bit about this book. Sounds nice. I like it. It's a blue book, guys. It looks really pretty. I like it. Good choice.
Thank you. It's called Feeling Good, 35 Proven Ways to Happiness, Even During Tough Times. And I wrote this because all of my life people have asked me what I do to be so happy. And then I would give a couple suggestions, and the response I would get, well, that's easy for you. You're a happy person. But the reason that I'm happy is because I do these things, and I do them.
It's like you were born that way or something.
There is genetic component to happiness, but this doesn't control all of it. We truly have powerful influence over our own happiness level.
Isn't that true?
Providing our 35 very simple ways that people can create their own joy and happiness in everyday living, even during tough times, especially during tough times. So I picked 35 research-backed things that work on a very difficult day when you have little time or energy or motivation, that these are things that the research shows help to elevate mood, decrease anxiety, and simply help us to live more joyful lives.
I love it. I love it. And if people want to get hold of you, how can they do so?
I think the best way would be on my website, which is drpeggydelong.com. And there's all my contact information and programs and books. Everything is there on that website.
It's a fun website. You look so happy. It's really nice. It's refreshing.
Thank you. And you mentioned humor. I think that being goofy. I'm very goofy. I love being goofy,
Me too.
And that's made it a chapter in my book. When we can't find humor in other places, we can be silly ourselves.
Oh, gosh.
Just something so silly as putting on a clown wig. I tell the story of how my father would just create his own joy and silliness by wearing a clown wig out in public.
Isn't it funny? Because even when you're happy like this all the time, or when you are cultivating it and you're living it and you're putting on the whatever gets you happy and you're living that vibration, you find that you're not always stuck in a comfort zone, are you? You're always, I find I am always outside of my comfort zone. I just realized that last week. I said to my boys, I am always I'm not in my comfort zone, and it's okay. It's fun. But it's because I don't have that time to be, I don't know, I don't judge whether it's right or wrong. I'm happy. It makes me happy,
Yes, that's where the magic of life is, outside of our comfort zone.
Oh, gosh, isn't it? Well, for everyone out there, have a fun week. Have fun. Create the happiness. Do some of the wonderful things we talked about today. And also take a look. Green Terra is growing. And that is on Soul Manifesto. And Green Terra is every Thursday night at 6. And what we do is we talk about concepts. Ooh, this week I think we're talking about kindness. What is that all about? And how can it help us better our lives? That one simple step. You know me. You do those strategic baby steps, and before you know it, you're like Bob on that big giant sailboat, conquering all your fears and living life to the fullest. And that's what it's about. So, as always, folks, this is for your ease and betterment. Just always remember that when you do these things and you're filled with love, then you're living spirit. Isn't that cool? As always, I love you all. Namaste.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.